Hi, Carlos. It's nice to see you and meet you here over Zoom. It's nice to be able to have a chance to chat with you.
Great to be here. I wish I could be with you in person there in the studio,
Yeah, me too.
experience beautiful Winnipeg, but alas, I'm here in New York City.
um, I'm familiar with the Catalyst Quartet just because of that great CD you put out of the Goldberg variations arranged for string quartet. We've played it actually on the air here at the station. It's a great disc. But for our Classic 107 listeners, can you just give us a quick background behind how the Catalyst Quartet was formed?
Absolutely, Chris. So the Catalyst Quartet was put together about 10 years ago now, and we were founded by the Sphinx organization. Sphinx organization is a wonderful organization based in Detroit, Michigan, and their mission is to promote diversity in classical music. They have a national string competition, which is for Black and Latino string players. And so the members of the quartet all participated in that competition. And based on all of the other things that the Sphinx organization does, one of those things being nurturing the young artists of tomorrow, they decided that fostering the career of a young string quartet might be something they would be interested in doing. And we were that string quartet 10 years ago. And so that's how we originally came to be.
Oh, that's great. And I actually saw a press release that came in through through my email that you have a new violinist, right? Do you want to talk about
Yes, we
that?
have a new
Hmm.
violinist named Abby Fayette, and she comes to us from New York, but actually more from Philadelphia because she just finished her studies at the Curtis Institute of Music. And then she went on to NEC, but she moved back to Philadelphia because it's such a great city for her.
Hmm. One of the fascinating things I find about the Catalyst Quartet is you put together really unique musical programs and projects. Why is this so important to the quartet? In fact, I was on your website and it's almost like a mantra with the quartet, putting on interesting uh, musical performances. Why is that so important for the quartet?
Well, we're a very project driven quartet. And for us, just playing the incredible repertoire that exists for the string quartet isn't really enough by itself. And we want to take the music that we have at our disposal, which is so vast and incredible, from the traditional standard canon, if you want to call it that, of Beethoven and Schubert, into new music and music that has yet to be written. Beyond just playing this great music, we really feel that saying something larger about a given topic or any kind of societal issue that's going on, environmental issue, whatever it may be, using the music that we have to say something larger is more interesting to us in a way than just presenting it on a program. And so all of our concert programs, our recording projects, our purely endeavor projects, they're all based in a larger space using music as the vehicle for our message.
Right. Being in a string quartet is a lot like it's like being in a marriage or a family. During COVID, I'm just sort of curious how the Catalyst Quartet has managed to stay vibrant and rehearse. How has that whole process worked during this past year?
Well, we've been very lucky because there have been a lot of people that want to hear what we have to say and to hear us play. And given that, and given the difficulties that have been put upon our industry, which are just incredible, I have to say I was in the process of writing a book about the performing and creative lives of classical musicians and all musicians really. And it's sort of like everything had to stop because there's nothing to write about. People can't write about their lives when they don't exist anymore. And it's just a tragedy what's going on. But for us, we've managed to work our way through this time because we've really decided to lean into people's creativity in trying to present music. And whether that be playing a concerto with an orchestra that's socially distant, doing pre-recorded video concerts, doing educational residencies that are all virtual, talking to various journalists about different projects, whatever it may be. If somebody's trying to be creative on their end to make music live and in this time, We want to be there to support them in whatever endeavor that may be. So therefore, we ourselves have been quite busy through this past year, and we're very grateful for that.
That's great. So you've got this brand new disc. It just came out on the 5th of February, and it's a great disc that features the music of the Black composer Samuel Coleridge-Taylor. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about who Samuel Coleridge-Taylor was?
I mean, I would really encourage all of the listeners to go on the internet and look up Samuel Coleridge-Taylor, because I could not possibly in any small amount of time tell you enough about him. And even daily, as people start paying attention more and more to this album and digging deeper into Samuel Coleridge-Taylor, I'm reading people that are attributing articles to us new information about this incredible man. He is an Afro-British composer, and he spent the majority of his life in London and went to school there and really was prolific in his studies. He went to the best schools. He studied with the best teachers. He had exposure to the best composers who supported him, including Edward Elgar. And he was also just like a dynamic person. Beyond his music, he was a dynamic individual. And he only lived to about 37 years old. I mean, he traveled to the United States. I read recently that he met with our president. Yeah. He inspired a tremendous musical movement in the United States with various choral societies. I mean, he's just an incredible, kind of like a Schubert who did so much in such a small amount of time, or a Mozart. It's really phenomenal, against all racial barriers and things that were not on his side. And to then at the same time write such beautiful music, it's just, was an incredible guy, and I encourage everyone to look up more about his incredible life.
Yeah, I was doing some reading about him as well, and apparently he made 3 tours to the United States, and he not only met Theodore Roosevelt, but I found it interesting, he actually met the civil rights activist W.E.B. Du Bois, or in French, Dubois, which I find is really, really fascinating. You know, yeah. He had such an interesting life. Yeah. The CD consists of 3 chamber works, the clarinet quintet, the piano quintet, and the fantasy Stück. And you're featuring some pretty heavy talent in addition to the Catalyst Quartet. You've got the Canadian pianist Stuart Goodyear on the disc playing the piano quintet, and the principal clarinetist of the New York Philharmonic doing the clarinet quintet. How did that collaboration come about, and when did the recording sessions happen for the 2 works, the piano quintet and the clarinet quintet?
Right. So this album is called Uncovered, Volume 1, Samuel Coleridge-Taylor. So being that we call it Volume 1 means that there's something larger beyond this album. And so the Uncovered project is a recording and performing project that we've developed, that we started about 2.5 years ago, actually. And our mission of this project is to record and perform and collect all of the music of historically important Black composers. So this project, Uncovered, originally was just meant to be one album. And we knew of some great music that we thought deserved great recordings. And we're like, we're going to put this on an album. It's just something that we have to do. There was no question about it. Because we've been hearing colleagues of ours at various festivals just bringing in some of this repertoire and having never heard it, but maybe heard of it. And we're like, whoa, that's a great piece. People need to hear that. People need to play that. No one's going to play it if there isn't a great recording of it, or if people don't play it more often, and no one's going to hire us to play this music if they can't hear it ahead of time. And so it's a big, long feeding chain kind of thing of how this music gets more airplay and concert play. So in this one album, we started to uncover, as it were, no pun intended, more and more and more music by more and more composers. And so it has turned now into a multi-volume anthology of recordings. And that being said, our next album will feature all of the chamber works of Florence Price. But this process of uncovering this music has been a sort of treasure expedition, of a treasure hunt, because some of the music is not, a lot of the music is not in print. Even Samuel Coleridge-Taylor's fantasy pieces, there is no score that's in print. We had to have a score made in order to have our recording engineer work on this album with us. But that being said, we then divided the uncovered volumes into composers. And the one that we could tackle first, because all of the music was known, was Samuel Coleridge-Taylor. And so two of those pieces, one being a clarinet quintet, one being a piano quintet, we needed collaborators. And we thought of some of our best friends that would really, I think, and we thought would shine in this project and actually sort of would belong to this project in a way based on where they're from and their experience, and could really say something important to this work. And Anthony McGill, the wonderful clarinetist, we have many, many mutual friends and have worked together tangentially over the years. And this was a great opportunity for us to collaborate. And it has been really a beautiful relationship that we've built through this process, and have now done a number of other things after this recording. And then Stuart Goodyear, who is one of the most incredible pianists living today. I mean, the word genius is not far from his name in my book. And, you know, he's a proud Canadian, so good for you. And it's really, it was a joy. It was a pleasure working with them, and it was so lucky that we were able to find exactly who we wanted to collaborate with. It was like first choice, yes, there we go. Doesn't always happen that way. And the album was actually recorded in Goshen, Indiana, at a hall that Azika likes to use, our producers like to use there. And it was recorded, I believe, last like spring, winter-ish, but like 2019. And so it had sat around for editing, and, you know, then the pandemic hit, and we're sort of like, everything stopped, and we're like, let's finish that album. You know, because we were all, I think most of everyone, not just the classical music industry or music industry period, we were just kind of frozen in shock. But we're sort of like, well, let's continue with this, and, you know, and our next volume we'll start recording this April, in, you know, month after next, Florence Price. So that's the timeline, and those are our collaborators, and a little bit more about how we came to land on this first volume.
Oh, that's great. I was reading somewhere that Samuel Coleridge-Taylor, one of his favorite composers was Dvorak. Are there Dvorak elements in the chamber music? Like, how would you describe his chamber music?
So I hasten to say, you know, any composers, like any composer, there are definitely quotable moments that there's a language that people definitely have that is similar. One of the pieces that I like to reference that's a very important piece to the Catalyst Quartet is Alberto Ginastera's second string quartet. It was the piece that we made our Carnegie debut with, and one of the first pieces we learned as a quartet. And a lot of people call him like the Argentinian Bartók, and because of his incredible imagination and wild use of the string quartet compositionally. But it's not fair, because he has a language totally different from Bartók, and is totally inventive in unique ways, and in some ways transcends Bartók's writing. But it's a comparison that makes people feel comfortable, I guess. And I think that's fine. If we can call it a safety blanket for people to dive in, I'm fine with that. And so in reference to Dvorak and Samuel Coleridge-Taylor, or Brahms and Samuel Coleridge-Taylor, I would say there's an element of there's a rhythmic element that's similar. There's the ability to sing beautiful long lines. There's a way to use rhythm that's really integrated and creates a deeper texture where there's a lot going on, and a lot of puzzle pieces that fit together very intricately yet at the same time have a very melodic, flowing sort of gesture about them. I think those are some similarities. But when you listen more and more to all of these historically important Black composers, the language is like really specifically unique. I've been talking to a lot of people, and I tell them, that in my home here in New York, WQXR, our local classical station in New York, is played quite often, if not sometimes all day. And I can go out and come back in the house, and within a measure of music, I can hear that is a Black composer's music, because there's something unique, and I can't put my finger on it, but it's like the stuff but it's slightly in the cracks of the unknown where it gets funky and cool. It's like it's all of the music, but tipped in a direction of something that's like uniquely, uncomfortably fresh and inventive. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my take on the association to him being compared to other great composers that we love.
Yeah, one of the things I hear in his music is, there's there's this slant that you're talking about, but he was a student of Stanford at the Royal College of Music, and there is a little bit of a Stanford influence in the chamber music as well.
Right.
I'm finding it really gratifying that more and more orchestras and chamber ensembles are performing works by Black composers, and they're sort of going out of their way to sort of uncover these gems.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there is a shift away from this sort of stereotypical dead white German composer on the concert program, and do you think there's more of a shift towards that? Female composers also sort of falling in that as well?
I hope so. I hope there's a shift, a lasting shift. And I hope that it's a shift that's always shifting. I hope that we're always moving in a direction of, I don't want to use necessarily the word inclusivity, but at least an open-mindedness in our programming of music, period. I'm not even going to say classical music, of music, period. Where we're open to all voices, to South Asian voices, to Far Eastern voices, to Middle Eastern voices, to Latin American voices, to all different types of language from other people, and that it's part of our conversation. The programming that we do in the Catalyst Quartet really does reflect that open-mindedness in scope of what's important is the message first. What are you trying to say with music? And then what music supports that message? And for us, when we look for that music, we look all over the world in all different time periods and all different styles. And that's how we program. Now, not everyone programs that way, because there are specific things that their audiences like, or things that the board of directors likes, and subscribers and things like that. So there is a bit of that. But it seems this year that there at least it's been put on people to shift programming to reflect what's going on right now, at least in our country, for sure. Whereas usually decisions like these are made years in advance. And so the music that you go to hear in concert halls is sort of decided years ago and doesn't reflect what's going on right now in our current space in time, in the news cycle, and whatever may be. And so that shift, number one, of being more timely with programming, I think is something that people might be more open to, hopefully moving forward. And also the shift into programming with a more open mind, because there has been this artistic reckoning in a way that has made people hear this music that like literally had no choice, and maybe they loved it, and maybe they're like, oh, okay, well, if that's as bad as it's going to be, then I'll have more, that kind of thing, and hopefully we can start telling a larger, more true story through music about who we are as a society and as a people.
Yeah, testify. One of my real things that I love to do is explore composers who are off the beaten path, and there is a lot of great music from Black composers, but also from female composers as well.
Mhm.
I have to say, I'm really looking forward to the Florence Price CD that you're putting out. We play her music as well as Samuel Coleridge-Taylor's music on the station quite a bit. And I know Florence Price's two symphonies that have been recorded, the first and the fourth, and they are excellent. So I'm
Yeah.
sure her chamber music will be great as well. I
Hard
was
music.
yeah, whenever I hear it, it's sort of, there is this sort of syncopated aspect to it. I don't know what that is, but I love it. I love her stuff. It's just great. I was going to ask the question, what's next for the Catalyst Quartet? But you just sort of answered it earlier, right? The next thing.
There's still next. There's always next with us. So next is Florence Price, and that would be volume 2, and we're set to start recording that in a month and a half-ish. And that is previously, I would dare say, never heard music of hers that we have luckily have access to her manuscripts actually. And so we're looking at her handwriting to
Wow.
do some of this. So it's really special, and it's really a whole nother story that we'll probably talk about when that album comes out, because the discovery of this music and the getting of this music, the access to this music, and having some of this potentially be world premieres, yet they were written in the early 50s, late 40s of the 20th century. Pretty incredible story there, which we can talk about in a year's time or something like that, 9
Love
months.
to.
But then we have volume 3, which of Uncovered, which features the music of George Walker and William Grant Still and Coleridge-Taylor Perkinson.
And I was reading Joseph Boulogne, the Chevalier de Saint George.
He's going to potentially be volume 4. Yeah, and that would be all of his very classical ornate string quartets, and
Right.
and that's really cool. And then the next bigger project beyond Uncovered for the Catalyst Quartet is our CQ Minute project, which is our 10th anniversary commissioning project, which features the music of 10 composers from all different backgrounds and age demographics. And they've all written pieces close to around a minute long, which we will present as concert works, but also as individual short films and be released as a video album. And more in line for people's attention spans these days that are around a minute long, unfortunately, but giving them the highest quality minute possible with music by Joan Tower and Caroline Shaw and Andy Akiho, and I mean, just the host of composers. And one of the really cool things about that project is that the 10th composer is unknown, because the 10th composer will be geared towards a national competition in order to promote young emerging compositional talent. And so that person is yet to be known.
Oh, that's amazing. Karlos, I've taken up too much of your time already. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me today. The disc is great. I've been enjoying listening to it ever since my friends at Crossover Media got me the tracks. It is now in our automation systems, which means we'll be playing it here on the station. We play Coleridge-Taylor's music a lot, so your CD will definitely go on the air. It's just a great recording. Thanks again for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you. My absolute pleasure, Chris. Be well.
Yes, you too. Thanks again.
Thank you.